Today, we're putting on our detective hats, but we're not solving a crime. No, we are on the hunt for something much more elusive, the truth behind a company's real financial health. And our main tool? It's not a magnifying glass, but a financial statement that tells the real story, the statement of cash flows.
So let's kick things off with a little bit of a mystery. Is it possible for a company to be all over the news, reporting millions, maybe even billions in profit, and yet somehow still be teetering on the edge of bankruptcy? Believe it or not, the answer is a resounding yes. And that puzzle is exactly why we need to learn how to look beyond the headlines.
So, here's our game plan. First, we're going to pull back the curtain on why profit can be so deceiving. Then we'll see how every single business can be broken down into 3 core activities. After that, we'll get to know our main tool, the statement of cash flows, and finally, we'll learn how to read all the clues to piece together the full story.
All right, let's start with the biggest suspect in the room, net income. Profit. It's the number everyone cheers for, but it has a secret. It's built on a system called accrual accounting, which can create this really dangerous gap between what looks like success on paper and the actual cash a company has in the bank.
See, it all comes down to timing. Accrual accounting, over on the left, it's like saying you got paid the second you sent an invoice, even if that customer won't pay you for another 90 days. That gives you profit. But cash basis accounting, on the right, it only cares about one thing. When did the money actually land in your bank account? For an investor or even a student, understanding this difference is everything because cash is what you use to pay your bills and grow the business.
You've probably heard this phrase a million times, but there's a reason it's stuck around for so long. Profits are nice, but you can't pay your employees with a profit report. You can't reinvest in your business with an IOU. You need cold, hard cash. And that simple truth is what guides this whole investigation.
Okay, so if cash is what we're after, where do we look? Well, the good news is it's not as complicated as it sounds. The statement of cash flows organizes everything a company does into 3 simple, logical buckets. Once you get these, you basically know the grammar of any business.
First up, you have operating activities. This is the day-to-day stuff, making and selling whatever it is they sell. Second, investing activities. This is about the future, the big picture moves, like buying new buildings or technology. And third, financing activities. This is simply how the company gets the money to do all of that, either by borrowing it or getting it from owners.
Let's break this down a bit more. Think of operating as the company's engine room. It's the cash coming in from customers and the cash going out for things like salaries. Investing is all about building the future, spending money on a new factory or maybe some new software. And financing, well, that's the fuel. It's raising money by issuing stock or paying back a loan or maybe even paying dividends to the owners. Every single dollar that moves through a company fits into one of these 3 boxes. So, where do we find all this information laid out for us? It's in our main piece of evidence, the statement of cash flows. This is the document that neatly organizes all those transactions, giving us a crystal clear picture of where the money came from and where it went.
The purpose of this statement is just beautifully simple. Other reports can get super complicated, but this one, it has one job: to cut through all the noise and tell you exactly why the company's cash balance went up or down. It's the story of cash, plain and simple.
Okay, let's make this real with an example from Target. Now look here. Their net income, their profit, was an impressive $3.3 billion. But then look at the very next line. The actual cash from their core business, their operating activities, was over $7.1 billion. That is more than double the profit. Right away, that single clue tells us that this business is an even bigger cash machine than the headlines let on.
And now for the fun part. This is where we really start our detective work. And we always start with operating activities. Because think about it. If a company can't generate cash from its main business, that is a massive red flag. It tells you something is deeply wrong with the core of the company.
So let's put those 2 key numbers under the microscope. First, you've got the official profit, the number that gets all the attention, $3.3 billion. That's the result of that accrual accounting we talked about.
But now, let's look at the cash reality. Wow, over $7.1 billion. This is the actual cash that came in from selling things at their stores, minus the cash they paid out to their employees and suppliers. The difference here is just staggering.
So what's the verdict here, detective? Well, it's pretty clear. It reveals that Target's day-to-day business is a powerful cash-generating machine. The cash story is actually way stronger than the profit story, and for any investor, that's an incredibly reassuring sign about the company's health.
So when you look at any company, here's a little checklist for you. 4 simple questions to ask about its operating cash flow. First,
Is it positive? I mean, it kind of has to be, right? Is it growing over time? You want to see that upward trend. How does it compare to net income? A big positive gap, like with Target, is fantastic. And finally, how does it stack up against its biggest rivals?
Okay, we've checked the engine room, and it's running smoothly. Now let's look at the other clues in our file: investing and financing. These sections tell us about a company's long-term game plan and, well, where it gets the money to pull it off.
Now, this is where things can get a little counterintuitive, but in a good way. You might look at the investing section, see a big negative number, and think, oh no, they're losing money. But actually, that's often fantastic news. A negative number here usually means the company is spending cash to invest in its future. Building new stores, buying better technology, it's a sign of growth. A positive number, though, that means they're selling stuff off. And you have to ask, is that a smart move, or are they desperate for cash?
And the financing story is all about the funding. A positive number means new money is coming in, probably from a new loan or from selling more stock. But a negative number, like we saw with Target, is often a sign of a really healthy, mature company. It means they're using their cash to pay down debt or to give money back to their owners by paying dividends or buying back their own stock.
Okay, so when you put all three of these clues together, you start to see these really clear patterns emerge. A healthy, mature company like Target, it looks just like that top row, a cash machine from operations, investing that cash in the future and rewarding its owners. A brand new startup in growth mode, it looks completely different, burning through cash and funding it all with new investments. By spotting these patterns, you can instantly get a feel for a company's strategy and where it is in its life cycle.
Look, if there's one thing you take away from all of this, it has to be this. Never ever judge a company by a single number. Looking at profit alone is like reading just the last page of a book. To get the real picture, to understand its health, its strategy, its future, you have to read all three chapters: operating, investing, and financing.
And that brings our investigation to a close. You now have the toolkit. You can look past the headlines and read the real financial story of any company you're interested in. So the next time you're looking at a stock, remember to be a cash flow detective. Ask yourself, what story is this company's cash really telling me?